in your entire grand jury testimony, you never said, my client said the words, I hit him, did you?
Again, it's 227 pages. I was in a state of shock, but the minute I remembered, she said, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him. I called Officer Lang.
Key witness Jennifer McCabe faced an intense cross-examination, and it's not over. She returns to the stand tomorrow. So this morning, we're talking about who the Commonwealth should call next. Plus, a chaotic backyard confrontation leads to gunfire. We've got brand new body camera footage showing the shooting involving the bassist of Weezer's wife. She was charged with attempted murder, and we're wondering, is she actually going to face jail time? And Mama Donna Adelson back in court, now asking to delay her trial. So the defense says they need more time to review some evidence about a possible jailhouse informant. And is the federal government eavesdropping on defendant Luigi Mangione? While federal prosecutors are firing back at the defense's claims. It's all coming up next for you right here on Opening Statements. Good Thursday morning to you, my friends. Welcome to Opening Statements. I'm Julie Grant. Should I say happy Friday Eve or maybe happy first day of May? Well, it is a great day here in the studio. We've got a lot going on and a tremendous show that we planned for you. So let's get started. Grab that cup of coffee. It's time for my opening statement. What do Cult Mom and Kohberger have in common? Turns out, not as much as his defense team thought. Brian Kohberger's legal team cited Lori Vallow Daybell's case as precedent for removal of the death penalty. Now, remember how prosecutors in Cult Mom's case failed to comply with the discovery deadlines? That was appalling. Remember that? And the judge sanctioned them for their failure to follow the rules. And the judge said death penalty goes off the table. Remember that? Okay, well, Kohberger's situation, a lot different. His attorneys are just complaining about the volume of discovery that's coming their way, and they're saying that it's disorganized. So they tried to make this big legal stretch and say that the disorganized, voluminous discovery violates Kohberger's right to due process. But the judge wasn't buying it. The judge found there's no reason to sanction these prosecutors. He found this case unlike that situation in the Vallow case, where those attorneys deserve to be sanctioned. This judge said, quote, the defendant cannot demand everything under the sun and then complain about the weight of all the planets. What a smart judge. What a brilliant quote, and what a great ruling to keep the death penalty on the table as a possible punishment if he's convicted. And you know, my friends, I was thinking about it. Who knows? Once it's all said and done, maybe Cult Mom and Kohberger will have something in common after all. They both may be convicted in 4 murders. That's my opening statement. Let me know if you like it. Right now, it's time for your daily docket.
Once I saw my son, and I basically passed out on him, basically. I just laid on him and just started crying. And I just burst out and said, what the is going on here? This does not look like no pepper spray and no tasing.
In Tennessee, we've got the state case continuing for the 3 former police officers accused in the fatal beating of Tyree Nichols. That was his mom we saw right there. Court's going to resume at 10 a.m. Eastern time, and we're going to go in there together live. In Florida, we've got testimony resuming in the resentencing of convicted killers Troy Victorino and Jerome Hunter. This is in the Xbox murder trial. That one starts up at 8:30 a.m. Eastern time. And in Florida, we've got the fatal family birthday party trial for defendant Alexander Del Toro. That one resumes at 1:30 p.m. Eastern. Now, let's turn to our top story. Week 2 of defendant Karen Reed's retrial is closing in. Witness Jennifer McCabe returns to the stand tomorrow morning. Court is not in session today in observance of Law Day in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So here's Jennifer McCabe giving her testimony on Wednesday. She faced an intense cross-examination from Karen Reed's defense attorney, Alan Jackson, and she testified that she was positive that she heard Karen Reed say, "I hit him, I hit him, I hit him," on the morning that her friend John O'Keefe was found deceased. But Alan Jackson wouldn't relent on the cross.
In your entire grand jury testimony, you never said, "My client said the words, I hit him," did you?
Again, it's 227 pages. It took me hours and in some cases days to remember all the things that Miss Reed had said. My mind, I was in a state of shock. But the minute I remembered, she said, "I hit him, I hit him, I hit him," I called Officer Lank.
And your memory's getting better even as we sit here today, correct?
There are certain things I will never forget, Mr. Jackson.
Including the fact that you never, ever, ever said, "She said the words, I hit him," to a grand jury when you were asked about it 3 months after the incident, right?
She said, "I hit him, I hit him, I hit him."
The cross-examination of Jennifer McCabe will pick back up on Friday morning. And as week number 2 is coming to a close, we're wondering, who should the prosecution call next? What do you think about those questions? How did Jennifer McCabe fare on cross, and who should follow her on the witness stand? Let's bring in our outstanding legal eagles to tackle those. I want to welcome in attorneys John Phillips and Michael J. Brown. Good morning to you both. Okay, so let's start first with Jennifer McCabe's testimony, and then let's tackle the all-important question of who should come after her. I want to go back to the point that we just saw in the clip, Alan Jackson crossing her on, saying that you never said this to the grand jury. Michael J. Brown, I was dying to talk to you about this in particular because of all your experience, both as a prosecutor and criminal defense attorney. And what I keep thinking about is how the average person doesn't understand that a grand jury isn't grand. It's not a big trial. It's not a place where you get robust testimony from witnesses. And personally, I thought that Hank Brennan missed an opportunity to object to this as an improper impeachment and try to protect her a little bit. I'm curious what you think.
Julie, good morning. Good morning, John. The grand jury, as we know, is a very limited proceeding. And as a prosecutor, we try to elicit very limited testimony from our witnesses. So that's number one. In terms of how McCabe did, number one is Alan Jackson's a real pro, and I really enjoy watching him. I enjoy the cross-examination. He does a great job. I think what Jennifer McCabe has done, she's really polished up her testimony in the sense that if you look at the first go-round versus the second go-round, she's not hostile, she's not aggressive, and she's very polite and cordial in her responses. And I think, although there are inconsistencies and omissions, which Jackson has brought out successfully, the way in which she's answering the questions, the way in which she's addressing the jury and the attorney, I think is boding very well and gives her a lot of credibility. So I think she's doing a really good job on the second go-round. So I guess that's a compliment to Brennan.
Mm-hmm. Right. Oh, he's outstanding. Outstanding. I think if there's anything that I wish he was doing, it's maybe objecting a bit more to the way the defense is going on these going to transcripts from the past, which we know they don't just come in, right? You both know there's a process, there's a formality, and I know that he knows it. He's a trial ad teacher. I think he's just trying to be very transparent so that everybody thinks we're not hiding a thing. I think that's why he didn't object. I would have, but not my case. It's his. John Phillips, let me show a clip to you, and I want to get your thoughts on the other side about the optics of the trial. Here's Jennifer McCabe on cross, where Alan Jackson is trying to accuse her with the other mom, both of them friends with John O'Keefe, of getting their stories together.
You wanted to find out if she had talked to these particular law enforcement officers and what she had told them so that your story could somehow align or it could inform how you responded to questions that they asked you. Isn't that true?
That's not true. We both know what happened. We don't have to have a story. There's nothing more than me calling and saying, hey, did they come to your house? That's what we did when the media showed up, when Miss Reed's private investigator showed up. We just give each other the heads up, hey, somebody's coming, because we're just like normal moms. We're not used to this.
Yeah, isn't that the truth? John Phillips, boy, you and Michael J. Brown, you both know, you've been in high-profile cases. You know what this is like. These moms, you know, we have these soccer moms who, this is so far out of their element, and yet here they are. I'm curious what you think. Do you think that Alan Jackson is effectively painting a picture of these optics like there was this wild conspiracy between these ladies to somehow get their stories lined up that morning?
You know, it sometimes trial work is like a heavyweight fight where you're pulling somebody out of the crowd to fight the heavyweight fighter. And Jen McCabe is doing a great job with that fight. Now she's trained a little bit this time and realizes some of the mistakes of last time. And meanwhile, Alan Jackson is doing his best to lay the punches, to lay the defense as well as he can. You know, Mama always said the truth is contemporaneous, and you would expect somebody, if she heard I hit him, to kind of feature that when you're talking to law enforcement and certainly in the grand jury testimony. But like Michael said, you know, from Bonfire of the Vanities, we've always heard, you know, about the indictment of a ham sandwich. It's a proceeding that's just designed to determine if there's going to be an indictment and sometimes lead the direction of an indictment. And you don't want to give up because you got to turn those materials over. You don't want to give up some of your best nuggets sometimes if you're a prosecutor. But, you know, McCabe's doing a good job. She is coming off, you know, kind of soccer mommy and you know, average citizen who just had this horrific day, losing her friend and having her other friend, you know, confess.
Right. John, you hit on something so key. You said, you know, the famous expression, you know, a prosecutor can have a grand jury indict a ham sandwich, right? That's how easy it is. And as a prosecutor, Michael, you know this, you want to keep your testimony as tight as possible. The whole idea is to not put everything in at the outset. Same with the preliminary hearing. And for the average person, you know, who's never done it, wouldn't understand it, it might seem like, oh my gosh, this woman didn't tell the grand jury the way, and Alan Jackson knows this. He was a prosecutor, he knows this. But, you know, I have to give him a compliment. You know, he's that good that he's trying to make it seem nefarious that it wasn't said. And I thought she did a good job saying, well, I wasn't asked. I answered what I was asked. Michael, going back to Hank Brennan, I've seen this pattern where Jackson on all the crosses goes back to previous testimony. They're always pulling stuff out. And Brennan's letting him put it in. Do you think here on out he needs to be tougher on making them do it the right way, you know, rather than just, you know, quibble about words and word choice? Do you think he needs to hold their feet to the fire and make them actually do it a proper impeachment and see if they can't?
You know, it's a good question, Julie. What you see, or what I see in my career, as the cases get more serious, the prosecutors get more lenient in this sense that what you had mentioned earlier about this transparency, because the last thing the prosecutor wants the jury to believe is that they're trying to hide something and avoid them from seeing something. So an objection, although it's obviously a legal, permissible thing to do, sometimes the juries, despite the judge's instructions, say, hey, why are they objecting? What don't they want us to see? And obviously that's a theme a lot of times in the defense. So I do understand why Brennan is letting things get in if they're going to get in anyway, because certainly Jackson knows how to cross-examine. He knows how to put in evidence. So if Brennan objected, I am certain that Jackson would still accomplish his objective. So I do understand that strategy, and I kind of agree with it on this type of case.
That's a great point. Yeah, you know, I'm sure he's thought a lot about it. Hank Brennan's brilliant. I'm sure he's thought, okay, is the juice worth the squeeze? Maybe I let the witness just handle themselves and go for it, but, you know, holding their feet to the fire, you know, certainly is an option. I suppose we'll see if it happens. Maybe with those ARCA witnesses, I bet we might start seeing a little more of him clamping down on what the defense is doing. John Phillips, let's turn to our other major question. Anxious to ask you, who do you think the Commonwealth should call next after Jen McCabe?
So your court TV viewers are very choice. They know their storytelling, they know their crime, and they know part of this answer, which is the whole primacy and recency. You start off with some real witnesses, some juice, some sympathy, then you're gonna transfer into the law enforcement investigation aspect in more detail, the expert witnesses, and then you want to end with a little bit of compassion and heart, as well, because while this is a very serious court proceeding about kind of who done it and or did Karen Reed do it and all of that, it's a story, it's a narrative, it's something that you've got to keep a jury interested in throughout, because otherwise they'll just be dozing off.
Your chair looks comfy, my friend. You're right. No, good point. Michael J. Brown, is there anybody in particular you have in mind that you think would be a good next witness up for them?
Nobody special, Julie, but what I do like to do, and I was afraid John was going to hit his head, but I agree with his points, which is sandwich these civilian witnesses with the experts. When I say experts, the detective, the police officer, people who are so used to testifying. So I do like to see, again, the civilian witnesses being sandwiched by the expert witnesses, so to speak.
Right. I love what you're saying. You read my mind. I would say, and I don't know this person's name, but whomever extracted the car data from Karen Reed's car, I think that might go nicely with this civilian witness just coming off the stand, talking about seeing the car, where the car went, the car inching up, and then we just had the cell phone data expert testify. All right, we'll leave it there for now. Michael J. Brown, John Phillips, I'm so glad you're here this morning. Stand by. We're going to hit a break. When we come back, here's what's coming up.
She pointed it. Not else, but she just lifted it up.
We've got newly released body camera footage of a shootout involving a popular band member's wife. And Donna Adelson seeking to delay her trial. Her defense team saying they need to review some evidence from a possible jailhouse informant. Many of you recognize that hit, Island in the Sun by Weezer, the rock band super popular in the 90s and early 2000s, selling more than 35 million albums worldwide. But the wife of Weezer bassist Scott Schreiner is finding herself in hot water this morning. This after a recent shootout with police. Her case is trending in true crime. On Wednesday, she appeared in court. Prosecutors say that she knowingly shot at police back in early April, while officers were searching her neighborhood for hit-and-run suspects in an unrelated case. Now, the Los Angeles Police Department shared footage of the encounter with Jillian Schreiner. This is leading up to that fiery exchange between police and this woman who is also a published author.
Up in the middle, kind of at the top of the hill between Water Place and Eagle Vista. Drop the gun! Drop the gun!
She pointed it. Not else, but she just lifted it up. She must have... Get down, get down! Shut up!
All right, now she got shot in the arm. According to NBC News, no charges filed against Schreiner as of yet. Prosecutors still assessing the evidence before presenting it for an indictment. Schreiner was arrested on suspicion of attempted murder of police officers. That charge certainly seems to fit after what we saw here. She's out on bond after posting a $1 million bail. We're asking, do we believe she didn't know she was shooting at the cops? Apparently, that's what she related at the scene, that she didn't know that it was police outside of her house. Let's bring in two experts. I want to welcome in this morning Manuel Gomez and Jason Piccolo. Good morning to you both. So anxious to get your thoughts on this whole situation and what this woman knew, didn't know, and how bad this could have gone. Manuel, would you start us off, please?
Well, Julie, unfortunately, in this case, I believe in this instance, the cops lied, and I'm going to tell you why. If you look at the beginning of the video, when Jillian comes out on the porch, she racks the gun, loads the gun at that point. I don't believe the police when they say that she racked it again a second time, because if she would have racked the gun, it would show a loaded bullet thrown on the floor. So I don't believe that. That's one, because there was one bullet that was fired, okay, and I believe that bullet was fired because when they hit her, okay, it caused the arm to jerk and pull that trigger. And the best way to prove this case, and if I was her private investigator, I would demand that her defense attorney get the aerial footage from the helicopter, which was right above the house, zooming in. All police helicopters have standardized cameras and take pictures and videos of the scene. That's automatic on the helicopter. So that's something that I would do in this case. Again, I don't believe that she racked the gun because the video clearly proves she racked it when she came out the house.
Oh, Manuel, great analysis. Really, really excellent stuff. Some more context here. The LAPD apparently were responding to a hit and run involving 3 suspects. That's apparently why they were in the neighborhood and looking over that backyard fence, and she comes out with the gun. So that's why they were there in the first place. Jason Piccolo, to you next, please. Your thoughts on all this?
Well, she did point the weapon at the police, and they did say California Highway Patrol. I believe there was another video before that where they said police. So they clearly identified it. The only issue with that is that she could be in a tunnel vision type scenario where she doesn't really have cognizance of what's going on around her. So much activity, so many people screaming at her. So I can see that viewpoint. I would like to see all of the body cam footage. And also, as the other guest said, the video, if there is, from the helicopter above. But there's a lot of factors to this. But the fact that she did point the weapon at the police or at a person did give them reasonable. They could actually fire their weapon and stop the threat.
Great analysis, Dr. Jason. Thank you. Okay, so let's turn to the other aspect of this. So some evidence presented by the LAPD is a Shriner on a 911 call describing the shooting. Let's take a listen to this.
I had my gun. Okay. And he said, put down that gun, put down that gun. He said, put down your gun. Oh, okay. And then he shot me. Okay, that's what happened, I guess. How long do you think until someone can be here?
Well, the officers are looking for this man. That's why I'm asking. Do you know where he went?
I have no idea where he went. Where was he when you... when you got shot? There's 3 men out at the other side of this fence here.
Now, nearly an hour later, Shriner was arrested outside of her home while lying in the street with that gunshot wound to her shoulder. Okay, so we're wondering, is she going to do any jail time? It's been reported that she raised the gun and fired a shot. No police were injured. We know they gave her commands to drop her weapon. She didn't comply. What's she looking at here, do we think, in terms of charging and in terms of any time behind bars? Manuel, let me go back to you.
Well, again, if she did pull up the gun and point at the police, then she's looking at attempted murder. The problem in this case, like I said to you before, she did not rack that gun twice. There's no indication of that. It shows her standing and touch the gun, but you see her load it. And it's not illegal for her to carry that gun outside her property in California. As long as that gun was legally purchased, there's no doubt that, you know, at a minimum, they're going to lower the charges as soon as that helicopter footage is seen. Because you can clearly see in the videos, Julie, the helicopter's right above the house. And it will give a clear perspective of what she actually did. So that's what I'm looking for. But the other thing is, and I think will be the catalyst of this case, is the toxicology report.
Oh, that's interesting. You think, tell me why, Manuel. I want to ask you a follow-up, please.
Well, the reason why I believe she possibly was under the influence of something is, one, she walked back so calm. Two, she did not even touch her shoulder. She was just grazed by a bullet. That does hurt. Any normal person would have been holding the wounded area. She walked back like if she was going to go get her coffee cup. There was no problem. So that tells me that she was possibly under the influence of some type of substance.
Interesting. I appreciate that analysis, Manuel. Something else we should watch for with this. Dr. Jason Piccolo, to you next, please. In terms of what you think may be appropriate charging for her and the reality of whether you think this woman should go to prison and will go to prison.
Well, you know, in order to make the charge, you need to put all of the facts together. One thing I'd like to look at is if she did have gunshot residue on her hands, whether or not that pistol was fired, where that projectile went, if they could recover it, the shell casings. One thing, I hate armchair quarterbacking, but they did say California Highway Patrol, and I think believe in police before that. But when you're doing things like this, you should always identify yourself as much as possible. One thing to counter your guest is that when some people do get shot, they don't show signs of being shot right away. There's a ton of evidence of that. Like sometimes a bullet will enter the body and you don't even know you're shot. So there is going to be things, and me too, I would like to see the toxicology, but the fact that you're under the influence of anything doesn't negate the fact that you could be charged with attempted murder.
Such great analysis from you both. These prosecutors, I commend them for being so careful, and clearly this was a bit of a messy situation, and they're going to assess everything, any spent casings, figuring out whose gun fired what the things were that precipitated all of this, and review everything. Like you said, that aerial footage, Manuel, all of it really is going to come into play. We have to leave it there for now, but at this point she is out, and we'll see what charges come. Dr. Jason Piccolo, Manuel Gomez, such great analysis and insight from you both. Thank you for your time and expertise. We'll look forward to having you both back very soon. And still to come here on Opening Statements.
Mrs. Adelson? How you doing? I want to give you this. Can I ask you, is someone blackmailing you? No, it's always a possibility.
I said to Harvey, I swear to God, our family was cursed.
When did they issue a warrant?
One moment, Miss Adelson. Please keep your comments to yourself.
Will a jailhouse informant delay Mama Donna's trial? We'll talk about it. Plus, federal prosecutors firing back at Luigi Mangione's defense team after they make accusations of eavesdropping. Welcome back to Opening Statements. This morning, we're shining the spotlight on Mama Donna Adelson as her legal team is pushing for a delay because of a mysterious new investigation involving a jailhouse informant. What? Okay, so we know Adelson is accused of being involved in the plot to murder her former son-in-law, Professor Danny Markel. We know that her son, Charlie Adelson, has been convicted of Markel's murder. Now, on Wednesday, Donna's attorneys appeared in court to request a continuance. They say they've received some new discovery from the state, some wiretap evidence involving a new jailhouse informant, and they say they need some time to go through it.
Just because the state believes that there's going to be enough time for us to prepare, and it's not 2 months, it's more like 6 weeks. There's not enough time for us to analyze this new information, synthesize it, prepare appropriate motions. We've spent the last 3 weeks dealing with this as opposed to finalizing the motions in limine.
The defense says that more than 32 hours of calls were captured on the wiretap. So who's on those calls? Well, Judge Everett did delay some pretrial hearings, but he reserved ruling on this continuance. So will Mama Donna get another delay? Let's bring in someone who's been following this case from the outset, the host of the Surviving the Survivor podcast, Joel Waldman, back on the show. Joel, good morning to you. Always great to have you here. Could we start, please, with who this jailhouse informant is? Do we know or have any educated guesses on this?
The short answer is no. In terms of educated guesses, people have been throwing out ideas. Not too long ago, there was talk about two jailhouse informants who had a conversation actually with Katie Magbanawa, who was the sort of the go-between, the linchpin, if you will, in this murder for hire plot. very unclear whether that is if one of those two who was previously discussed is the one that was brought up in this hearing yesterday. The hearing yesterday was really fascinating because really what we were tuning in for yesterday was to find out. We had heard that there was a big discovery dump, and that was going to continue this trial. We had heard the number 85,000 new emails. Well, lo and behold, the hearing started yesterday, and Josh Zellman, who you just saw, who's the defense attorney for Donna Adelson, he basically came out and said, look, we just got 100,000 emails. We're trying to sift through this stuff using some AI technology, and humans in the office, we're just not going to be able to do it in time for this trial, so we need more time. So there was a bunch of things that came out, and none of it was good for Donna.
Yeah, sounds like it, Joel. Well, and something I keep thinking about here, so if this is a defense request for a continuance, look, they know their client's going to be sitting in jail. I wonder if the judge would say, okay, this is what you want. You know, I know the state of Florida is ready. Seeing what you've seen from the judge, did you get any hint as to which way you think he might be leaning on this?
Yeah, I mean, the betting odds are that this trial is going to be continued. Now, with that said, Judge Stephen Everett is a fun judge to watch. He has an amazing, super eloquent, great way with phrasing things, and he's friendly but also stern. And you could tell yesterday he was getting really annoyed with the defense. And this goes back in terms of history because Donna had a previous defense attorney, Dan Rashbaum, and then hired two other defense attorneys who both had to drop out. So this is number 4, number 5. So Donna is competing here with Sarah Boone of infamous suitcase fame. But yeah, the judge was not pleased, but he's got his hands tied. Because as you know better than I, Julie, every defendant has a right to a fair trial, and I don't think he's going to be able to rush them through this discovery process, especially on a murder one charge. So they're going to probably have to give the defense more time and Donna Adelson more time. The ironic part about this is this entire story basically evolved because Donna Adelson hated Tallahassee so much. She didn't want her grandkids living there, and now she's stuck in a county jail in Tallahassee, and it seems like she's going to be stuck there a lot longer.
Oh, you're spot on, my friend. Oh, the irony here with this one, Joel. I know you know. With all those emails, it kind of makes me wondering, since you gave us that number, I'm sure you were wondering this too, like, where in the world are these coming from? Whose emails are they? I'm sure you've thought a lot about this and talked about it on your show. Best educated guess on that, Joel?
Yeah, by the way, we had Julia Janae of Court TV on our show last night, who happened to know.
That's great.
And she knows so much.
She's covered it. Yeah, she was one of our correspondents when this whole thing began. And it's wild how all these years have passed and we've seen the progression. I remember way back when we were just hearing the Adelson name. It was like, are these people ever going to be brought into court? And now I know Julia knows finally we've seen the day. So, yeah. But the emails, what do you think?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, first of all, I guess to be clear, they might not all be emails, but it is digital forensic evidence that they have gathered. And this is coming from the state attorney's office. Now, Georgia Kappelman, who is, the prosecutor on this case, she was just named Assistant District Attorney of the Year in the last few months. She's one of the best at what she does. So I don't think there's anything kind of nefarious or shady going on in terms of the state attorney's office, shielding any of the discovery. When they arrested Donna, they seized some digital devices from her and I believe even Harvey Adelson. And people are basically suggesting or intimating that, the investigators at the state attorney's office were having trouble sort of getting the passcode and maybe just got the passcode in the recent weeks. And that's why all of this digital evidence is coming into play. But Julie, this really took a left turn yesterday. Like I said, they were talking about the discovery. That was what we anticipated. And literally, seemingly out of nowhere, and you played that clip, Josh Zellman said, hey, there was an investigation started. And we know from this hearing that the wiretaps, there's 32 new wiretaps, that those were being carried out through February of this year. So this is something totally new, which apparently no one really knows much about. But having covered this case for as long as I have. We've got Tallahassee insiders, people who really know people on the inside. And it was interesting. One of them said yesterday that it was yesterday was that the tenor changed regarding Wendy Adelson. So it might have something to do with Wendy. And if I'm Wendy Adelson or even Harvey Adelson, the ex-father-in-law, Wendy's father, I am sleeping probably with one eye open right now.
Oh, definitely. Oh, definitely. We have high-profile Florida lawyer John Phillips on the program this morning. Joel, they better be calling him. I tell you what, I've been saying it. Every day I wake up, and I think maybe today's the day that we're going to see her charged. I know you and I have had the conversation for a long time. Maybe we're getting closer as those depositions, Joel. I know they were canceled recently for Wendy and Charlie, so maybe that tells us something.
They need her as a witness, so they say they're holding on to her, but there's been a lot of different scenarios, one of which she testifies and then gets arrested coming off the stand.
Ooh,
you know, it's a dramatic, that's dramatic. Yeah. But we'll see how it plays out.
Oh, my gosh. Well, we'll keep talking with you for all of it. Joel Waldman, thank you so much. Much love to your beautiful family from us. Take care. Still ahead here on Opening Statements. We're talking about Luigi Mangione next. Federal prosecutors are being accused by his defense team of eavesdropping. We'll explain. And we've got the very best moments from the murder trial for the police officers accused in the beating death of Tyree Nichols.
Is Karen Reed a killer girlfriend?
She's guilty.
Or the scapegoat in an elaborate cover-up?
Karen Reed was framed!
Karen Reed is accused of murdering her police officer boyfriend.
And stated repeatedly, I hit him, I hit him.
She may end up taking the stand. Her first trial ended with a hung jury.
They haven't proven anything.
Will a jury finally agree on a verdict? We know who did it.
The Karen Reed murder retrial. Live coverage today on Court TV.
Following breaking news out of New York City as police are searching for a gunman.
He ignores numerous other pedestrians, approaches the victim from behind, and shoots him in the back.
The defendant is charged with 1 count of murder in the first degree and 2 counts of murder in the second degree.
And it's completely out of touch and it's insult the intelligence of the American people.
Now for what's tipping the scales, are federal prosecutors eavesdropping on Luigi Mangione? Well, the alleged killer's attorney made the allegation in court saying that prosecutors in the Manhattan DA's office listened to Mangione's calls between him and his attorneys. But prosecutors say that is not true, telling the court that nobody eavesdropped on a live basis. And consistent with well-known practice, many of the defendant's calls are recorded with notice given to both parties. Prosecutors also told the judge a paralegal inadvertently listened to a call between Mangione and his lawyers, but stopped as soon as she realized a lawyer was on the line. So here we have a he said, she said kind of situation. So is it possible there could have been eavesdropping going on? And will these allegations tip the scales of justice in any way? Let's bring back in Michael J. Brown and John Phillips. Michael, let me go to you first on this, being a New York lawyer where all this action's going on. What do you think of these allegations and the response that it was a paralegal who stopped as soon as she knew what was happening?
I don't think there's anything nefarious, Julie. That happens all the time in the sense that all the calls are listened to. You have to remember there's a lot of useful information that the prosecution can get from these recorded telephone conversations. Obviously, any conversations between the defendant and the attorney are completely off limits. And it happens. They're listening to the phone calls. They may not have identified themselves, but once they realize it stops, I don't have an issue with it. I understand that they always listen to these calls, and that's par for the course. So I don't think there's anything nefarious about it, and I don't have a problem with it.
Michael, thank you for that. John Phillips, certainly want you to weigh in. Your thoughts on the accusations and the reply.
I agree with Michael. You know, generally, prisons have a system for legal calls that is distinct, where you set up a legal call which doesn't fall under the general recording rules, and they're just handled differently. I've recently had 2 cases where I've been on opposite sides of this. I had Joe Exotic calling all the time with talking to anybody and everybody. And then we represent the victims in YNW Melly Jamal Demmons' case. And his calls have led to, further charges related to witness tampering. And so, it certainly, you'll never hear anything other than me that an attorney should never have their calls recorded. That said, there are times when the attorney is engaging in nefarious conduct too, and it puts everybody in a precarious position. But I agree. I don't think there's anything, too much to this. And when you make bold accusations, you better have bold proof to back it up.
Isn't that the truth? John, you're right. Let's turn to something else that I've been thinking about an awful lot. I'm anxious to get your thoughts on it. So now that we have the formal notice of intent to seek the death penalty filed by the federal government, they presented to a grand jury and indicted Luigi Mangione. Now they've got that charge of murder with the use of a firearm. And so they're seeking the death penalty on that charge. So now the ante has been upped, so to speak. So we've got the New York state case, the New York federal case, and we've got the state case in Pennsylvania. And previously, Michael, as you know, we heard that the federal government was just going to take a backseat to the New York state case and let that one go first. That was until things have changed. Now, I think many people are wondering, oh boy, if you've got the capital case, wouldn't that go first? I would love your thoughts on this, what you think we're going to see play out here.
It's definitely going to be a power struggle, Julie, because you're going to have the federal government seeking the death penalty. They're going to want to get first dibs. And then the state court, obviously, are the first to prosecute him, and they also want to get first dibs. So I definitely can see this power struggle between the two. I don't know who's going to prevail. I guess whoever gets discovery finished and the pretrial hearings finished first will be the ones to commence trial. Kind of silly to have the duplicative prosecutions, but that's what each jurisdiction has opted to do.
Mm-hmm. Right. How about his defense? So I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that the amount for the defense fund for this wealthy young man has grown to almost $1 million. He's got so much public support. But now that the death penalty is on the table, John Phillips, I'm wondering if his attorneys might be thinking about negotiating a global plea agreement to wrap up all of these cases in some way that allows him to avoid the death penalty if he did what is alleged. What do you think, please?
I agree. There definitely needs to be some, consolidation of efforts. From the court case standpoint, you're not going to get 3 bites at the apple or 4 bites at the apple at a deposition if you're prosecutors. And at the same time, on the defense, it becomes tremendously expensive to defend, with out-of-state lawyering. Even if you're all pro hoc vici'd in, it becomes tremendously expensive. And certainly he's got this $1 million fund, but you want to wind up with the best result for Mangione as his team, and they're just kind of dividing, and who knows who's being conquered at this point. Still early.
Isn't that the truth? A perfect note to end on there. Every Thursday, we love having you both on the program. Michael J. Brown and John Phillips, thank you so much for the great analysis and insight today. We'll let you get off to your practices. You guys are busy guys, and I know we need to let you go. Thanks so much. And thank you at home for watching Opening Statements. If you like the show, you can watch it again. Go to courttv.com. Just click on that Shows tab.